I won't dignify it with the name of research, especially not with some of my comrades who are here, who know so much more about Celtic culture and the Druids and the Pagans and all. The reason I follow these kinds of belief systems for me is not as a practitioner, but it's more as somebody who takes inspiration in the seasons. And these people, these practices are so attuned to nature and take so much interest in the seasons that I just sort of glom onto them at certain times of year, and the springtime is one of those. Springtime celebrations are so wonderful, and we can get outside again and be with each other. We can do all our things outside, you know. We can play music outside. We can do it all, and so moving outside is what these things celebrate in some ways, okay? And then becoming part of the growth and uplifting stuff that's happening out there, as Jenny was mentioning earlier. Well, anyway, in my preparations for this presentation, which I won't dignify with the name of research, I did come across a lot of anxiety about the difference between May Day and Beltane, or Beltane, is that right? Fix me there, Bill. Beltane in Irish, yeah. So at any rate, the difference between May Day and Beltane usually is non-existent for most people. I mean, we don't see much difference. We go down the maypole, but the difference is kind of interesting. It's more of a difference in tone. And I was thinking, how can I dramatize the difference?
I bet you can, Jim.
I didn't come up with a story or a poem. I looked, you know, and then I just saw that little guitar sitting there and went, maybe I can do something this way. So I'm going to play two songs, and one I think is a May Day song, a May Day kind of song, the spirit of May Day. It's not about May Day. It's just a love ballad, but it has the spirit of May Day. And then I'll play one that has the spirit of Beltane, and they're a little different. This one is one I learned from the singing of James Taylor. It's called, like about 100 million other songs, it's called One Morning in May. One morning in May, I spied a young couple, they were making their way. One was a maiden so bright and so fair, and the other was a soldier, a brave volunteer. Good morning, good morning, good morning, said he. And where are you going, my pretty lady? I'm going out walking o'er the banks of the sea, just to see the waters glide and hear the nightingale sing. Well, they had not been walking but a moment or two, when out of his knapsack a fiddle he drew, and the tune that he played made the valleys all ring. Oh, hark, cried the maiden, hear the nightingale sing. Oh, soldier, kind soldier, will you marry me? Oh, no, fair maiden, that never shall be. I've a wife now in London, and children twice three. 2 wives, and the army's too many for me. So I'll go back to London, and I'll stay there for a year. And as often I'll think of you, my little dear. And if ever I return, it'll be in the spring, just to see the waters glide and hear the nightingale sing. Just to see the waters glide and hear the nightingale sing. Sure do wish Jimmie would join me on that last phrase.
You did great.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah, so the lightness of that song, the light. I mean, I just feel when I hear that song, everything seems to lighten up, both in the sense of getting less weighty and in the sense of being brighter, you know. And now there's a little naughtiness in it, you know, and we can't quite tell how far the relationship between the soldier and the lady goes, and that part's left out. It might have been in the lost verse of that song that we'll discover one day, you know. But as it is, it's sort of light. There's a little bit about, you know, erotic attraction, but it gets sort of diffused at the end, and off goes the soldier to his family. Now, I'd like to play what I think is unintentionally the best Beltane song ever written. And since spring is the season of song and dance, if you need to sing on this one, just have at it, okay? I would appreciate your help. And if you need to dance, even more so. You know I would be untrue. You know I would be a liar if I was to say to you, girl, we couldn't get much higher. Sing it. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. The time to hesitate is through. No time to wallow in the mire. Try now, we can only lose, and our love become a funeral pyre. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. We're going to do that one more time, okay? So be ready. I want you to feel it down your belly, okay? Here comes. Come on, baby, light my fire. Come on, baby, light my fire. Try to set the night on fire. Try to set the night on fire. Try to set the night on fire. Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for singing with me. That song was attributed to the Doors. On their early albums, they didn't give individual authorship on the songs. They just said the Doors, right? You know, and I think it's a great one. I remember learning Jose Feliciano's version of that. It took a whole summer when I was like 14. You know, it was really fun. I didn't play that version today because I wanted to give it a little more push, you know, and give it a little more power. Because this song, to me, embodies sort of Beltane power. You know, it's a fire song. If the other song is a light song, this is a fire song. Light my fire, obviously, but a fire song in the sense of the mood of it, you know, how it gets you all wound up, gets you feeling like something's going on inside as well as outside, you know. So power is something that we get from both fire and light. Okay, these two different ceremonies, May Day or Beltane, one of them has an earthiness to it, Beltane. And the way that one of the guys on YouTube explained it to me is this. He said that Beltane is really rooted in agricultural practices, okay? And so that you're preparing the ground. Beltane is sort of the cutoff point at that point. That's where you take if you're a herding agricultural community, you take your animals up into the mountains to graze. After they've been indoors or confined or in close pastures close to home the whole winter. Now in those confinements, they got diseases, they got insects on them, lice, things like that. And so at Beltane, they'd have these big bonfires, and they'd walk the cattle between them, okay? And the smoke was said to purify the animals and to clean their hides of some of these winter gatherings things. And the warmer you could get them, the better. And then you send them off up into the mountains, okay? And they would spend the summer there. So this is the beginning of the summer for the herding culture, which means changing pastures, okay? And then that fire has an integral part to it, you see. Now for the somewhat later developing planting cultures, okay? Agriculture in the sense of farming, okay? It's a little different, but it's still a cutoff point. By Beltane, you should have your fields cleared, okay, of last year's junk and be ready to plant, okay? So that often involves fire too, right? The clearing of fields, but usually that's in the fall. So really the fires are a little different. They start moving toward a more symbolic function, I think, when we get to the next stage of agriculture, okay? And there you get people using the fires for symbolic purposes. For example, jumping over the Beltane fire. That's a way to increase your fertility and get you hot down below, I think is the idea. So again, fits with the Doors song really, really well, you know. And so you jump over the fire. Now, if you jump over the fire with your sweetheart, you're going to be betrothed within the next year. And so you see pictures of the Irish kids in particular, teenagers jumping over the Beltane fire, holding hands, just lovely. But that's sort of what the fire signifies. It begins to mean about warmth and heat in a human way, in a symbolic way, not just about warmth and heat as something practical, which we still have to have. So we got light for May Day, and we celebrate that in the outdoors. Okay? We have a maypole. We dance around the maypole. That is common to both celebrations in many cultures. You have a maypole. Okay, so it's a phallic image. That's pretty well known, and people dance around it. They're celebrating resurrection in that sense, okay, and regrowth and rebirth and the rising of the sap. Okay, you think of all these terms that we use to talk about spring fever. The sap is rising, for example. They're all metaphors that come straight from the natural world, you know. Or I've got the fire, you know, or that one's hot. You know, you see what I'm saying? It's connected in some interesting ways. But in the maypole has a really interesting history in American literature, by the way, which, if any of you studied it like me, you know you have to read those dreadful Puritans, those New England Puritans. Oh my God, you know. But you may have noticed, you may have heard if you read all that stuff, the story of Thomas Merton of Maypole, or excuse me, Thomas Merton of Marymount, who constructed a maypole and instructed his friends and neighbors to dance around it and have fun. Well, the Puritans didn't like this. They said it was a reawakening of pagan practices. And they were right, okay? They said that it tended to make people overstimulated. And they were right, okay? Everything that the Puritans said about it was true. It was just that Thomas Merton and his crew over at Marymount thought all that stuff was okay, you know, with the Puritans. So there's this huge conflict, and I think Thomas Merton was, maybe some of you know what became of Thomas Merton. Anybody know? Gus, do you know?
I think he finally returned to England.
Did he?
But they pointed guns at him.
Oh yeah, no, it wasn't just that they were rude to him, okay? No, this was, when the Puritans got serious about something, it was like serious, okay? Yeah, it's an interesting story. I didn't go back and read it again before this, because I had to read it so much back then. Plus, I didn't want to get out my old American literature books they're in some box somewhere, you know. But anyhow, I do think that shows that throughout history, that's one example of throughout history, people have been trying to awaken these practices. And it really kind of caught on, if I understand the history right, in the 1950s. And that's when some of the pagan orders really got going again, and so forth. And from then on, it's been pretty continuous that there have been, you know, there's been a solid effort to reawaken the practices of the old Celts and the pre-Celts and the people who were pagans in the British Isles in particular. But all over Europe, you see this awakening happening. Now, to me, what's interesting about this awakening as a non-pagan, as an outsider looking on it, is that it does connect us back to the earth in some really interesting ways. And you know, some of my friends in environmentalism, they have a hard time. They really do. They have a hard time getting their message across. And some people have suggested at some point that if they gave a sort of a religious push to what they're talking about, that might work. And they've tried Christianity and lots of other things, green Christianity, sorts of things, but there has always been a pagan element in the environmentalism movement. They've tried to, people have tried to push it away. I remember some of the activists calling it woo-woo and things like that. But actually, it probably forms a really deep bedrock of environmental activism because of the connection with the earth. Okay? And that's what we're talking about here. So from Thomas Morton practicing on May Day, that was a May Day celebration for him. Then we get to people practicing Beltane today, and May Day, and many others. A couple of my friends are down in Albuquerque finishing up this weekend from a big Beltane celebration. And what they generally involve is the blessing of the pole, and the putting of the pole in the earth, okay, and the dancing around to celebrate the risen energy of the earth. That's really what it's about. Okay. Now, so for every symbol that we have from Beltane, whether light or fire, we have three kind of parts of it. Okay. The first is the thing itself, light. Okay. In summer, it's lighter. Okay. In May, it starts getting lighter, longer during the day. So it's just straight up light in that sense, okay? But light also has a symbolic value, right? And light means like insight, you know, somebody sheds light on something, okay? It means getting over your fears. We've talked about that before. The night symbolizes the fearful. People are afraid of the dark. The light dispels that fear. See, light symbolizes education and understanding, okay? Enlightenment in that sense. And also the achievement of you know, whatever you're looking for in meditation. That's enlightenment, right? When you finally get there, okay? So light has this huge symbolic weight on top of its actual existential self that comes out at this time of year. And those two go hand in hand. And then light also has a downside. All of these have a downside too. What could be the downside of light?
Blinded by the light.
Say it again.
Blinded
by the light. What does that even mean? Anybody want to try it?
Well, I know for me, like I have to pull the shade down because the light is not allowing me to see what's here.
Right.
That's a function of my vision.
That's right. So light can limit you by its presence in some ways. Okay, and it tends to overwhelm at times, right? You can be in a, you know, I used to always get a migraine headache every time I went on a hike in these mountains up here. And what somebody told me, it was just the intensity of the sunlight up there at the high elevation, you know, that can trigger it. And so light can be, also, I'm wearing a hat today indoors, as you notice. I apologize to anybody who's offended by that. But the reason is, I mentioned this group before when I was talking about Epiphany, because I go to Epiphany Dermatology, all right? And see where I'm going with this, right? Okay, so I have these, like, you know, my head has begun to look like a moonscape. I went there this week, got a treatment, so I'm keeping the hat on to keep me from touching it. You know, it's like the cone of shame for dogs. Anyway. That's what we're into with the hat today. So light has, think about lasers. A laser is just a concentrated light, right? And it can destroy or it can heal. It has that. Anything that can destroy or heal, that's where the power is. That's where the power is. Now the question is a little bit easier with fire, right? Fire's benefit is obviously warmth, and we talked about its medical benefits too, right? If it can heal as well. Fire can be used. Heat can be used to heal, to cauterize, to heal, to take care of animals who have lice with its smoke or whatever. That may not be true. That takes care of it. I don't know that, but that's why it was done. But fire also has a great symbolic meaning for us, right? Having the fire in your belly means that intensity, that energy. Having a fire in your heart means that you're in love, or something like that. And on it goes. There's an inside to fire and there's an outside to fire. And the inside is what we take our symbolic or psychological meanings from, and the outside is what affects us. It gives us the raw material to live on, but also the raw material to intellectualize upon, like to say, warmth. What does it actually mean to me? Okay. Now, and now, it's very interesting to me that Beltane is the beginning of the fire season in our world. Okay, and I only know this because I had a guitar student who works for the Carson Hot Shots, and he had to quit his lessons until September because he's on call all the time. And this is the fire season, and so we know that our property could be damaged by this. The air quality will change. Fire could be extremely destructive, and we know it, and we're in the season now. Thank goodness we're getting some rain, because that'll make it all better. We haven't had a major fire anywhere yet, and it's sort of a miracle because it was really dry up until this week. All right, now I want to give you a chance to talk. I always do, or not to ask a question or to raise a point. And I think I'm going to do it first by asking you to just comment on what light means to you, or if there's a special meaning that we haven't touched on yet for light. What would it be?
Lightening up.
Lightening up.
Lightening up.
Right, we mentioned that with the song. It's a light song. It has a little joke in it about the wives and the army. Yeah, and so it's light in that sense. Light. The word. I've always thought the word light, as meaning weight, is connected with the word light. Right. They're certainly the same word, in the history of the English language. But what their connection is, we have to work out, I think. And to me, that lightness of it is very important. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Before the earth, God said, "Let there be light."
There be light. Light is the medium in which the earth was created, according to the Jewish Bible. Exactly. Yeah. Lightning. That's a great example of again, the two-sided business, right? Lightning is just so stunning and so beautiful. And electricity is something we really want. By the way, I have this little side note to tell. Oh, first, let me hear from you back there, miss. Go ahead. Light is lightning. Whoa. Well, you know what other kind of light we haven't mentioned? Photon torpedoes. Okay, now, those babies are dangerous. I'm not lying. Yes.
Can you comment on the difference of light through a prism or through a projection?
Well, no. Although when I was in the 4th grade, I made a picture of a prism with the light separating on it like this as a project, and I was in love with Isaac Newton. So the prism is a divided light, and then what was the other one? Projection. Like just a light that shines at me if I'm...
No, more about our head and our ego.
Why don't you tell me?
Hard enough to get the question of what you got.
So I'm thinking that light, for one thing, on the light, the prismatic quality of light, light is all colors, okay, in a lot of ways. It contains all colors. So in that sense, it is that medium, okay, for everything to come out of. Go ahead. Somebody help me out here.
Well, in my idea of color and light is different colors carry different frequencies.
Mhm.
So if you're looking at the world through ego, that frequency, I believe, would be a little bit lower. But if you're looking at the world and people with a pure, open heart, that light's gonna be higher and brighter.
How are we doing back there? Are we getting there? Well, that was a good answer, I thought.
I love listening.
Go.
So I once had this experience. I got stranded at the monastery over by Abiquiu,
Mhm.
and I was stuck there for the weekend, and against my will.
I get that.
And so since I was stuck there, I just decided to do all the stuff, like all the different, and I'm not Catholic, and I don't even consider myself Christian, but I just did everything, all the different masses and ceremonies and every single thing. I was like, well, I'm here. I might as well do it. And somewhere in between some of those ceremonies and masses and whatnots, I had this interesting experience where I think it was between the 4 a.m. prayers and the 9 a.m. mass, where I was taking a nap. And I had this, and it was like a lucid dream, and I was aware that I was dreaming. And I literally levitated off the bed. And I had this distinct epiphany, or like I knew it in my I just knew it was true that I was made out of light. And at the same time I was literally levitating off the bed. I mean, not literally, but in my dream, in my lucid dream, I was light in that way. Right? I was so light, I was just like lifting up, and then at the same time I was like completely and 100% aware that I am made out of light and some fundamental way. And so, you know, this discussion of light, obviously, you know, it kind of came back to me. Thank you for reminding me of that experience.
That's a beautiful experience, and I do want to say that "made of light" is a phrase that's used commonly in many spiritual traditions. That we are made of light. I tend to like the made of mud myself. It seems to suit my body a little better. But we're really not talking about bodies. We're talking about the part of us that is light, which could be everything, but it could be that part that rises up when you're asleep.
Well,
Even the
maybe
mud is made
you
out of
read-
light on a certain level, on a certain, you know, quantum physics level or something that I don't understand intellectually.
Well, in physics, light is the electromagnetic spectrum, which ranges from radio waves all the way to cosmic waves and everything in between. Everything is made of light. We know that all the higher elements were created within stars. We are actually star dust. We are. We are.
We're
made
golden,
of
too.
star dust.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Zach. What he said. Are you finished yet?
Never.
Now let's get back to the garden.
Marcy?
I'm curious to know, and there isn't really a way of knowing except to ask, if someone has absolutely no vision of what their experience of light is, besides maybe cozy and warm.
Mhm. Well, a couple of people I've known that have lost their vision, they still see changes in light. And it's not much, but it's a difference, you know. Mhm. Yeah, here's somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Well, I used to, still do, but I loved being in a deprivation tank.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no light in there. Yet there was this moment when I was in there with my eyes closed and there was so much light. And I thought, well, what is this? So then I thought I was crazy. But then I told a friend, and she's like, that's you. We actually do give off light. And when you're in that kind of darkness, because it was like this, like I thought there was light playing on my eyes. Like, how is this possible? And it was just little moments, but it was definitely enough to be like, wow. So in full dark, I wonder what everyone would look like. Just the colors coming off of them.
That's pretty fascinating. I'm amazed by that, because I mean, it does seem like you're seeing your own light. What other source would it be? You know, unless they're tricking you. Bill?
Well, just following up on what was said, the animals, many animals, can see infrared and maybe ultraviolet. And so there's whole ranges of light that we humans don't see, but it's there. Who knows what's going on there?
I would like to change the subject a little bit. I would like to share, you mentioned Irish and British, I think, background, right? And Slavics have actually different, it's very similar, but for example, in our culture back home, around Easter, we having, or May, we celebrate it almost like something like Valentine's Day. And we should go under the blooming tree, and the man should kiss the woman, and it's for fertility. And around Eastern time, the boys creating, and it's still going on in Czech Republic, they having willow, they doing whip, and they whipping women and sprinkle them with water.
Oh, good.
And when I told that my sister-in-law, she says, "Oh my gosh, they're beating you up." Says, "No, this is symbolic, again, for fertility." And so the water, little bit, you know, the whipping, you know, and the kissing, you know, under the blooming trees, you know, everything is about love and fertility, and eggs, of course, are involved, you know, because it's newborn, a new life. And so the pagan traditions, you know, pagan tradition in each Slavic culture are a little bit different, but they are very embedded. Even we became Christians, we're still doing these things in these days.
Yes, and so, excuse me, go ahead.
Or we actually burning a broom as a stick when the winter ending, you know, sending the winter away on a river when we burning broom.
Beautiful.
Dressed as a woman.
Burning the broom.
Yeah, yeah. That's very beautiful. And yes, May Day in some form is celebrated all across Europe, east to west, okay, and in many places in the United States too. But it might go under different names, or like, you know, like Mayfest or whatever. And yeah.
International Workers' Day.
International Workers' Day on May 1st. That's the only way I can even think of it anymore. I got to tell you, after reading all the politics that I've choked down, I can only think of May Day as the day that workers go on strike and get their grievances solved. Now that goes back to an Irish tradition too, by the way, that I heard about in my preparations, which was that Beltane is always the day you usually sign on to work for a year. If you're a worker, like a farm worker, mostly we're talking about. You sign on to work for a year, and that agreement is made on Beltane. Next Beltane, you change, or you can change, but the agreement is null and void at Beltane. So it's like opening a new world, you know, opening a new life. The summer has arrived, even a new job it might be, okay? And so that year and a day, you might have heard that expression in the law somewhere. That's what you sign your contract for on Beltane. Actually, you don't sign it because you're probably illiterate. But you make that agreement, shake hands on it, yeah. I think we're just about out of time. We can take one more, yeah.
Well, I often return to the term guiding light.
Yeah.
To me, that sums up how I feel about myself and about the world. Guiding light.
Guiding light.
Guiding light.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jenny's going to play us a song that says all of this much better than I have. And but first, I'd like to offer a blessing to everybody, a Beltane blessing. Okay. Now, I'm not a priest or any of that, you know, and I think any human being can offer another human being a blessing. So, by George, I'm going to do it. I'd like to offer you a Beltane blessing. May the light be upon you. Okay. May it open you to new thoughts, new ideas. May it show you the way as a guide. May it not hurt you, okay? May the light not burn your head. May the light not blind you, okay? But may the light from within come without and show others the way. And may the fire burn in your heart. and in your belly and in your whole body. So you feel the energy and the sap rises for the spring, and you can feel good, okay? And put all that bad winter time away, that tiredness and that dragging. Be lifted up. That's my blessing for you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimmie. So the second part of the song is the actual Druid oath that I discovered, and it just had to go into the Mayday song. I love that distinction of the light and the fire. It's really cool. Mayday, Beltane, put the pole up, dance around it. It is the midpoint between spring and summertime again. Here's the Druid oath. We swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark ye spirits, hear us now, confirming this our sacred vow. We swear by peace and love to stand, heart to heart and hand in hand. Mark ye spirits, hear us now, confirming this our sacred vow. On this May Day, on this Beltane, light the bonfire, dance around it. It is the midpoint between spring